testimonies here, starting with Chloe. This is probably going to be the toughest part of this, okay? So embrace yourself.
It's
There are
bad.
thousands of survivors who could have provided evidence to our inquiry team. Below is a summary of some of the testimony provided by our brave witnesses who spoke to the inquiry hearing. Some of the witnesses have to remain anonymous for their own safety. It begins with Chloe. Throughout her early childhood, Chloe, which I'm assuming is a pseudonym, was popular at school, performed well academically, and enjoyed an active social life. Although her parents separated when she was young, she describes her early upbringing as relatively stable.
And in these cases, most of the time, they target girls who are from broken homes, broken families, so they don't have any men looking after them, generally speaking.
Following the separation, full custody of Chloe and her older brother was awarded to their father despite his alcoholism. That's a rare occurrence. Her mother, on the other hand, was often absent from her life and became homeless following the separation. It was most likely because this woman was most likely suffering with mental health problems by the sounds of it. Chloe recalls a generally secure and supportive home environment under the care of her father. However, following his sudden death just before her 10th birthday, Jesus Christ, as if that wasn't enough tragedy for a 10-year-old, she moved in with her mother and her mother's new husband, a man she describes as a pedophile by whom she was sexually abused. Chloe's mother called her husband
The kinds of situations. Let's just say that I was very close to a girl whose father did the same kind of thing to her. It wasn't a stepfather, it was her own father. And the mother knew about it and did nothing to keep the family together. Absolutely evil.
Assaulting Chloe on many occasions, but did little to stop it. This is women. On one occasion, Chloe's mother caught her husband in the shower with Chloe, and instead of intervening, she closed the door and walked out. At this time, Chloe was 10 years old. The abuse soon escalated to rape. Chloe's stepfather supplied her with alcohol and cigarettes to keep her quiet. She began
caught her in the shower with her own daughter and didn't do anything about it. Mother of the Year award. That's why this kind of stuff happens, is when parents don't care about their own children.
Smoking cannabis. Around the same time, Chloe started truanting and spending time in the local town center with a friend and supervised. She describes groups of Muslim men, primarily Pakistanis, aged 20 to over 50, showing them attention, including wolf whistling and buying them alcohol. Many were taxi drivers who would take the girls into their cars and drive them around the town. At this stage, there was no sexual abuse, and although men's behavior was clearly inappropriate, Chloe and her friend, then in the final year of primary school, enjoyed being treated like adults. Grooming soon intensified. The provisions of alcohol and takeaways was accompanied by emotional manipulation.
You know what bothers me about these situations is they're like, these girls dress like they want it, short skirts and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, obviously they don't want it because they have to be groomed first. Like that disgusting excuse that they use. I swear, if you do that kind of thing to a child, I swear you should just be executed for it by law, of course. You know, but it should be legal, a lawful execution of anyone who would harm a child like that.
And many of whom were related to one another, presenting themselves as sympathetic friends to Chloe. Yes, Chloe describes this process as them mapping out, are you vulnerable, are you a vulnerable person? Physical contact, including kissing and massages. Kisses and massages became increasingly common and is also becoming increasingly harder to read. Meanwhile, the abuse by her stepfather at home worsened, and her mother was all but absent as a guardian. Fuck me. At this time, Chloe had an aunt and uncle who lived nearby, and she often sought refuge with them. She had spent holidays with them during her earlier childhood and felt that she could trust them. On one occasion, she visited them while truanting before returning home and spending the day there while her mother and stepfather were at work. To Chloe's surprise, her uncle arrived at her house unannounced an hour later, and she invited him inside. After a brief conversation, Chloe's uncle sexually assaulted her. Chloe resisted, and he relented. And
every single man in this little girl's life took advantage of her.
Left. She told her mother about the assault, and her mother reported it to the police. The police accused Chloe of lying. Me? And no further action was taken until this instance.
Oh my God. Yeah, see, and the police are useless in every single case. I showed you what the police in the UK do. They arrest the victims.
Since she had regarded her uncle as one of the best people in her life. Afterwards, there were no adults left that Chloe could confide in or seek support from. Increasingly isolated, she became more deeply involved with the groups of Muslim men she encountered in the town center. One evening, Chloe's friend suggested that they travel to a nearby town where one of the men had a hotel room. They were picked up by the man who was drunk and under the influence of drugs and taken to the hotel. When they arrived, hotel staff saw them, but they did not intervene. In the room, the girls were given a potent strain.
Children. These are children at 11, 12 years old. At no point did anyone intervene. Makes you sick. Makes me sick to my stomach. Like, okay, put yourself in the situation. You're the hotel staff, and these grown men are having random young girls, not even teenage, young girls transported to their house, you know, and they're clearly under the influence of drugs and alcohol. What do you do? Wouldn't you do something? Call the police? Something. But they do nothing. At every single level, these girls have been failed. And 250,000 girls, and that's a low number. That's a low number. That's a low shot count. And that's why you people who talk about the Epstein files and all that, the amount of victims of the Epstein cases, which a victim is a victim regardless, but it pales in comparison to 250,000 children.
Which left Chloe, then 11, absolutely smashed. Chloe's friend was taken into another room by a group of men, and Chloe was groped by the man who remained. Chloe resisted, and he hit her. The man did not attempt to sexually assault her again, and instead threw the girls, both of whom were still intoxicated, out of the hotel and refused to drive them back to their hometown. They were forced to walk. It was around midnight. Chloe did not want to go back to her home as she feared her mother would beat her for being out late, so stayed with her friend. In the early hours,
just so you know, that's Alka-Seltzer. I'm not an alcoholic, okay?
Hours of the morning, Chloe was collected from her friend's house by the police after her mother reported her missing. Chloe lied to the police and her mother about where she had been.
Well, I am an alcoholic, but that was Alka-Seltzer, not vodka or gin.
His mother grounded her for a month, meaning she was stuck at home with her predatory stepfather, a period she describes as torture. After the month passed, Chloe arranged to see her friend, who boasted that she had a new boyfriend. Chloe left the house to meet her, and the girls were picked up by the boyfriend, who was in fact a 25-year-old Indian man. Chloe initially thought the man was nice, posher, then...
Of course, they always seem nice in the beginning, before they begin torturing. Just wait. Just wait. I'm warning you. Here's another warning. It doesn't get any better. It just gets worse.
The other man she had met in the town center, he took Chloe and her friend to a shop where he purchased a bottle of vodka before picking up one of his friends and taking the girls to a secluded location. During the journey, the men began pressuring the girls for sex. Chloe refused, stating that she was on her period, but the men replied that it did not matter. Night was falling when they arrived, and the boyfriend took Chloe's friend out of the car, leaving Chloe alone with the other man, who proceeded to rape her on the back seat. This incident took place in 2003. In 2022, Chloe took the two men to court, but neither were found guilty. From this moment, Chloe's life spiraled.
Of course, I mean, it might as well be like the courts that they have over in Pakistan and in Iran, where the girls are never, if girls try to take their rapist to court, generally they end up getting found guilty of something and get stoned to death. How close are we to that in the UK? Pretty close, I would say.
At 12 years old, she began drinking heavily, smoking large amounts of cannabis, and taking powder drugs, including ecstasy. Not really that hard, to be honest with you. Anything to block it out of her mind. She would drink before school just to get through the day. And none of the teachers noticed a drunk student. She and a friend would spend school hours in the town center walking around until somebody picked them up in a car. Somebody bought them alcohol and somebody gave them drugs. There were times when Chloe would be missing for up to 3 days, during which time she was passed between taxis, drugged, abused, and raped. In every case, the perpetrators were Muslims and primarily Pakistani. On one occasion, Chloe was abducted by an abuser who was driving drunk and taken to a graveyard. He gave Chloe, still 12 years old, whiskey before forcing himself on her and raping her. He withdrew before ejaculation and forced the empty whiskey bottle into Chloe's vagina.
These monsters are still at large.
It shattered. Chloe admitted herself to A&E, but no questions were asked about how she had...
Yeah, and not a single question asked by the doctors either. Not a single doctor reached out. I mean, all of these stories, these girls are in need of serious intervention, and nobody intervenes. Why? Lord, help these girls. Because this kind of stuff is still happening. Because in the current judicial situation in the UK, migrants and especially Muslims have free reign for the most part, and cops still avoid. You saw what happened to that white kid. That's what they do. They are told to avoid at all costs arresting somebody of color.
Sustained such an injury. She was examined, the glass was removed, and she was discharged. Chloe was questioned by police due to her absence on a number of occasions. Each time she was asked where she had...
But like how at 12 years old that happens to a 12-year-old girl, and nobody intervenes. Excuse me. Oh, Lord. And nobody intervenes. It's absolutely demonic, absolutely devilish what these girls went through.
Who she had been with and what she had been doing. She replied that she had been having sex with adult males in cars. Rather than opening an investigation pursuing her abusers, the police dismissed Chloe as a prostitute at 12 years old. She was 12 years
dismissed as a prostitute at 12 years old.
At this time, and the police had literally just dismissed her as being nothing but a prostitute. They asked her whether she was consenting to the sexual activity, and despite Chloe telling them that she did not know the definition of the word consent, they reported that she had not, that she had been.
She did not know the definition of the word consent, and all authorities did nothing. I'm sorry. I know usually I kind of keep a certain level of lightness when I make episodes, but I want people to hear about this kind of stuff when it happens, because the world needs to know. The world needs to know, and people need to be punished, and things don't change until people hear the truth. And the people that immediately just think racist when you hear that Muslims are doing it, take your head out of your rear end, please. And thank you.
Consenting, and that she was a 12-year-old prostitute. The police said this. The police found Chloe as well as other missing children in cars with the gang members on multiple occasions, but let the gang members go on without so much as questioning them. On one occasion, Chloe was in the town center and was identified as a missing child by a police officer. Yeah, so you're identified as a missing child if you are a minor and you go missing for a certain period of time. However, you can also become a legal prostitute, apparently, and the legal age of consent in the UK is 16, not 12. Chloe was in the town center and was identified as a missing child by a police officer who questioned where she had been. Chloe told this police officer about the full extent of the abuse, and the response of the police officer was that nothing could be done, and Chloe was let go. In response to her truancy and deteriorating behavior, the school regularly placed Chloe in isolation and compelled her to attend additional after-school classes every day. This did little to improve her emotional state, and she continued to spend time with her friend and her friend's boyfriend. This went on for a number of years. The boyfriend would simply supply the girls with alcohol and drugs, as well as introducing them to his friends, who were exclusively South Asian men. On one occasion, he took the girls to his place of work, a textiles factory where he raped Chloe. Following this incident, Chloe...
South Asian is their safe speak for Muslim, for Middle Eastern, because they don't like to point out Middle Eastern men. Anything but point out Middle Eastern men, because Middle Eastern men have never, ever, at any point in history, ever violated anyone in any way, not even Muhammad. That's not what their religion is based on or anything. If you can't tell, I'm being sarcastic. That's sarcasm that I'm doing right there.
Stopped spending time with a friend who, up until this point, had accompanied her throughout her exploitation. By this time, Chloe had become so accustomed to her lifestyle of spending time with the Muslim gangs that she continued to do so without her friend. On one occasion, following another late return home, her mother grounded her for 2 months. Fearing further abuse from her stepfather, Chloe walked to a nearby social services office while her mother was at work and reported the Chloe was interviewed by the social workers about the abuse, after which her mother and stepfather were arrested.
I mean, caught between a rock and a hard place. I mean, seriously, she's stuck at home where her mother's boyfriend will assault her, or she goes out with her friends where her friends are not her friends. They're grown men who assault her. And she kills all of her pain with drugs and alcohol, obviously, because I mean, how could a child handle that kind of stuff? It's too much. You know, the frontal lobe doesn't develop until you're like 25. My frontal lobe didn't develop until yesterday. You know, so these girls are children. It's just all I want in this world is for punishment to happen to these men and all of the men that do these sorts of things. I'm talking the boyfriend of her mom, who is obviously probably a white man, and all of the Muslim men that did it. It doesn't matter what religion or what race you come from. If you do bad things, you need to be punished for it.